Hi, everyone, and welcome to AB Conversations, where we will help you CFP your way out of it. A podcast where you get into the minds of a couple certified financial planners on how we think and feel about everyday financial planning questions and what should really matter most to you. A healthier financial life starts now.
Hey, Adam, welcome back to podcast time.
Hey, great to be here.
So, quick question. Best leftover part of Thanksgiving meal. Like what's the best reheat?
So this was in the upcoming newsletter, or maybe this will be in conjunction with the newsletter. 1000%, it's the leftover turkey sandwich. Right?
Yeah.
Some bread, some mayonnaise, some turkey, side of chips. I'm already looking forward to it. Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. We make a little turkey chili afterwards. So hopefully that gets everyone nice and hungry for the podcast today. So no good segue for this one. This is going to be a little bit of a different attempt for us because we're going to go through, it's called the 4 pillars of retirement. And maybe this is really good to just right off the bat say, whether you're retired or starting to think about it, what we've certainly recognized, not just post-COVID world, but trends that had been kind of moving this direction, the thought and feelings around retirement and what the focuses are, it's starting to shift. So I think it's a really interesting kind of conversation to have on not only what are those statistics and what are we learning about what's best for our clients, but, get people really starting to think about that if they haven't really considered what retirement's going to mean to them. So
we've talked about it in different podcasts, right, to certain degrees, but this one will be focused kind of on those 4 pillars, right, and we'll talk about them in a second. But essentially, Edward Jones, the investment company, along with, I don't even know the names of it, but essentially other different survey companies.
AgeWave.
AgeWave and Harris Poll essentially surveyed a bunch of Americans and Canadians 18 and over with a focus kind of on the retirement side of things. So that's where a lot of these statistics come from, but they put it kind of in one nice package that truly is looking at those 4 pillars. Historically, when people thought about retirement, it was financial, right? When can I financially actually get away from work? And I think that was more so kind of the approach, right? It was, and we've talked about this before too, retiring away from work, and then I'll figure out what the heck to do with all my time, rather than, we are certainly strong proponents of, you have to have some sort of strong purpose to make that, to fill that time, give satisfaction, all of the other things that come with, later in life. The finances are certainly a portion of that, but that is not the most important, at least what we understand, and this survey results kind of prove.
Yeah, people want to be more active. They're calling this a new chapter in life. It's not just time to rest and relax. So I think let's go through them. Right, finances is one pillar, and we probably won't even start there because I think some of that is just things that we would normally talk about in other podcasts. But it's health, it's family, it's purpose, and finances. But let's talk about it through that lens of, this is a journey, right? Retirement is a journey. It's not necessarily a destination. So I kind of wanted to go through things that I read within this report that kind of gave me pause or really kind of shocked me. So let's maybe start with health. It is, and we have articulated this before, it's the number one thing that retirees, pre-retirees are kind of concerned about. Far more than money.
Yeah. So the statistic was 96% of retirees say that health is more important than wealth in retirement, which is, again, it's kind of crazy to think about that. Nearly 100% of people
within
said
the margin
health
of error.
Basically health is more important than wealth.
And if you think about it, what good is all that wealth if you don't have your health to
Right.
enjoy it and do the
Yep.
things that would bring you enjoyment and purpose and spending time with family? And it's kind of this perspective too. And we do see this as advisors that
Yeah.
you do all this planning to say, okay, between 65 and 85, 95, how much money do you need to live off of, right? That used to be the
Right.
one thing. All our
Hmm.
plans are kind of dedicated to you finding that one number. But
Yeah.
there's a difference between your lifespan and your health span, right? Those first couple of years of retirement where hopefully you do have good
Yeah.
health and can enjoy some of that before some of the things that just wear down, chronic conditions become a
Right.
thing and
Yeah.
your quality of life does start to deteriorate.
Yeah. And so I had this awful scenario in my head, right? God forbid you retire, you're enjoying retirement, and then some health diagnosis, really cuts life short to some degree. In that,
Yeah.
yeah, you've done all this work, you've saved all this money, you've lived responsibly, and something you cannot control to a certain degree is that health side of things. So all of the money in the world doesn't necessarily solve a health issue. So yeah, that being kind of one of the biggest concerns and worries makes sense to me. And I think the world and our country in general are kind of understanding that
Yeah.
priority of health is kind of number one.
Yeah. 80, I'm trying to remember specifics of the statistics. 80% of people over the age of 65 have at least one chronic condition. Um, so again, I think it is a little bit of that quality of life. It's putting some emphasis on that, but even as planners, it's for us to then, maybe try to hear how people think and feel about this in a way that doesn't just create these straight line projections of, well, you can afford this or you can't afford to do this. It's how do you really envision that journey of yours in retirement? And maybe it is a little more spending on the front end because you do value that time when health maybe feels a little bit better.
Yeah. Yep.
They talk about mental health, of course, in there too. And
Sure.
I found it, especially coming off of COVID, really interesting that the number one concern with health in retirees, it's now Alzheimer's, it's dementia, it's not COVID-19, it's not strokes
Right.
and cancer.
Right.
It's the deterioration of the mind.
Yeah, that one I had that noted too. That yeah, it's the mental health, it's Alzheimer's, it's dementia, those things that you mentioned, outranked cancer, heart attack, stroke in terms of like concern, which I guess to a certain degree does make sense to me, right? I don't know if this is necessarily true, but certainly a heart attack and a stroke and maybe even cancer can kind of just hit you like that, and it may just pull the plug on you. Dementia, and we know Alzheimer's, like that can be a very long runway. We've been dealing with it tangentially through certain clients and their relationships, and it's certainly not a pleasant experience. And I think as more and more people experience that themselves, they certainly don't want to fall into that camp. And it is just an awful situation.
Yeah, and we do recognize, in our profession that these things are intertwined, right? We do need to maybe
absolutely.
prepare financially for, like you said,
Yes.
These are the conditions that will require some sort of care and maybe for longer periods of time that really should be prepared for. So there's a little bit of the difference between like mental health, where that's going to be completely interconnected to family and purpose and other things we'll talk about in a second. But then there is the the failing faculties that you really do need to kind of think about how that can be prepared for. And of course, I'm no doctor, but there are things that you can do earlier in life. Keep your mind moving. It is proven that can happen. I saw the stat in here, and I was a little surprised. Especially coming off of a pandemic. 2/3 of baby boomers say that their mental health is very good to excellent. Right. So even though it's a major concern, like the number one concern, 2/3 are still saying, I'm in a really good spot with this.
Yeah, I remember seeing that too. And I don't know that I noted that specifically, but essentially the point was, as people age, and theoretically, right, responsibilities of children, mortgage, work, those things start to lessen, and that does actually increase feelings of, contentment and, happiness, that side of things. So I thought that was very interesting to me. And I mean, I certainly, in my world, right, parents, in-laws, I certainly see once they've kind of flipped that switch to retirement, it's definitely true.
Well, and let's be honest, our parents, our grandparents, the generations before us, right? They have life experience. They have, gone through things. They have more emotional maturity, perspective, coping mechanisms. So it does, stand to reason that the things that they would put them maybe in a worse spot mentally, how they're emotionally dealing with something is going to be less of a stressor than maybe it is for us in raising 3 kids right now.
Yes.
This podcast is not about me, so let's move on.
So I'll stick on that health point real quick and how it ties into the finances. As part of that, right? The biggest concern being health. Another big component of that is, if I am not healthy, how am I going to cover that financially, right? Preparing for increased healthcare costs, preparing for, potentially paying for long-term care. And that is where we kind of see, and part of the report shows, is that obviously if you do have your ducks in a row from a financial standpoint, or you have, bucketed money for those specific purposes, accumulating wealth by itself really is not necessarily the goal. It really does give that confidence that if I have my proper resources, it's security to take care of whatever those unexpected events are, right? I'm not going to be destitute if something happens. And then it really is just the freedom to do what they want when they want. And I think that's going back to that earlier point on just as people retire, having more happiness, more contentment, just that side of it, the mental side of it, that does jive there, right? Just being able, I know in talking to my dad, like just waking up every day and not necessarily feeling like overwhelmed by anything. I can do whatever the heck I want today is like completely freeing.
Yeah. And as much as that is kind of the catalyst, this is a good segue into kind of thinking about, okay, but then what does fill that time? And it's still, these are trends that have existed. It is all about family, friends, and finding that purpose, right? And maybe that's the shift. And I know we've talked about before, the shift of what about the job do I really need to replace in my life? But it really is retiring to something and not just away from that specific work. So I don't know, let's maybe talk about second pillar, family first.
Okay.
I found it really, really jarring, is maybe not the word I should be going with, but jarring to see that passing on memories and values and life lessons was overwhelming, like 75% of the goal compared to 25% leaving money.
Yeah. So I have that one noted. So I'll throw out the numbers. It was 75% of the retirees surveyed in this process, and 83% of the younger adults, so pre-retirees and all the way down to age 18, agreed that the most important thing to pass on were those memories, life values, and just lessons in life in general, rather than, money, real estate, property, things like that. Like that was an overwhelming agreement on both generations that, it's the time and the memories more so than passing a financial account when you die.
Right, because this is where I kind of have to step out of, financial planner world and think like an individual too. In planner world, we're so conscious of, you need to have $1 left on the day that you pass away. And we talk about 4% rule and withdrawals and, what can you afford to do? When really we are seeing this. I think when we talk to our clients on what matters most to them, it is these experiences. It's being able to either provide them or participate in them. So it kind of goes against the grain a little bit of, even our little Pennsylvania Dutch mentality of you save, you save, you save. But the statistics, it's overwhelming, right? It's creating those memories and finances play a role in that.
Yeah, so that's exactly where my mind went, that it is, and we've experienced this with clients. It is very difficult and maybe slightly unnatural when they get to retirement or are contemplating is now the time to finally step away. Being able to flip that switch from I've been saving all my life for this moment, now being able to pull money from their savings just feels very odd and just not comfortable, I think, for the majority of people. But it is that I think it is just the general mindset of this nest egg, whatever that needs to be, right? The purpose that it can serve, right, to allow those experiences, right? You're using what you've saved to now put into action. Like you said, it's the time with family, vacations, the purpose, whatever that may be. It is just slightly flipping the mindset to, now I've saved this money, now I'm going to turn it into the more, I'm not coming up with a word, but it's not the financial impact. It truly is
right.
Like the mental and emotional and like that kind of connection.
Yeah, because there was another stat in here when it was talking about what is creating that sense of fulfillment for people. And the number one, again, overwhelming, is spending time. It's spending time with loved ones, whether that's defined as family or not. And I think you're spot on. When we think about what we most often hear from clients in retirement, what are your goals? What do you want to see? What do you want to have happen? It's always, just spending time. If it's family and grandkids, if that's their situation, or if it's, the ability to do some things with friends and travel, money certainly plays a huge role in that. But, it does come back to, we need to prepare for that, but we do need to have this balance between what can I afford to do at what frequency, and make sure that, hey, this other thing that we were just talking about, health later in life and maybe needing money, that we've balanced that all out. And that's why this is an art. It's not a science, and everyone's situation is a little different. But these definitely are interwoven things that we need to have conversations on with people. But family.
So it's a huge,
it's a pillar.
Huge. Yeah. The one thing that I noted just about purpose in general was that there's a strong sense of purpose for retirees when it comes to spending time with loved ones, family, friends, whatever that may be. And then not only is that help fill some of that purpose, it really does intertwine with the health. It is proven that they are happy, healthier, and live longer when these retirees have a sense of purpose in their lives. So it's where these different pillars start to meet, where you can't just focus on one, I guess is the point.
Yeah, I took away from there too. There definitely are these phases of retirement where, you kind of have this honeymoon phase, right after you retire, where most people can kind of script their first 100 days. Yeah, maybe like your dad, it's just not setting the alarm clock. I got the honey to-do list. But that is going to shift, as maybe health changes, or as relationships change, as, family dynamics change. It was crazy to me to then see that stat, connections and preparing sometimes for that solo journey, where there is maybe more of a sense of isolation. 44% of women over the age of 75 live alone. It's statistically shown that men pass away first, that was just a really big number to me. And it just kind of proved even more that creating those connections and having that sense of family, again, loosely defining family, friends, loved ones, it's just really important to those other pillars of continuing to feel like you have purpose and mental health, and being supported if your health is starting to decline.
So even a slight variation of that note, right? Your point on isolation, and 44% of women are going to go through that solo journey. One of the other thoughts, or one of the other things that they talked about was, as people retire, 41% of those people that are retiring, one of the things that I'm trying to find it here, essentially what people said they would miss the most after retiring from their job are the people and the social
connections. And
certainly
we hear that a lot.
Being able to either continue that or replicate it in some way, shape, or form with other people that are not just family, right? That
Yeah.
are friends and past coworkers and different groups. I met with a client a few weeks ago that for the first time in her life started playing pickleball. And now this
Yeah.
is a whole new community that has opened up to her, to meet with different people that she never would have experienced in a previous, situation.
Yeah, and I don't know the stats pre-COVID shutdowns, but I thought it was really interesting to see the percentage, how high the percentages are on, again, retirees using technology
Oh
being
yeah.
defined as using the internet, being on social media. Something like 70% of retirees have smartphones. What was that number 5 years ago? It really does
Yeah.
hopefully allow for some more connections and interconnectedness,
Yeah.
at a phase of life where it's really, really important. So
Yeah. On the purpose note too, one of the things that kind of stood out to me, and it makes complete sense, um, deriving purpose in different ways. One of them was giving, right?
yeah,
Not just financially, but actually being a part, giving back to the community in some way, shape, or form. And it was nearly 90% of the people surveyed here. And again, this isn't just retirees. There are some younger people in this group. Think there should be more ways for retirees to essentially interact and give back to the community through their experience. I
yeah,
thought
their
that was great.
experience with their time, with their talents, like you said,
Yeah.
not just money. And I think we're seeing that too. It is a much more active, the baby boomer generation, right? We're like halfway through. I think that was in this report too. Half of the baby boomers have now retired.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it is a far more active group that's willing to try new things, that still sets personal goals, right? They're deepening spirituality and sense of self, and that's why
Yeah.
it's really cool to call it a journey, not a destination. Because to
Right.
your point, whether it's giving, whether it's trying to grow themselves, it really just is this new chapter of life that's cool from our standpoint to watch people like kind of go through those developments.
Yeah.
But to tie it back to our job, it just makes it really important to not just get too comfortable with the assumptions you made on day one of retirement.
Right.
Because
right.
what's important to you, how you're going to spend your time and therefore your money, we see it shift pretty dramatically for people.
Yeah. Yes. And that's a great point. I'm glad you said that, because it truly does make our job ever changing, to the point where, we've said it before, right? When we create a quote unquote financial plan, right? The actual document that is documenting advice, the minute you're done with that Word document, it's out of date, right? At some point, something's going to change, focus is going to change, whatever. But yeah, that is a great point, that as people's focus and hobbies and whatever, that sense of purpose is shifted and adapted over time, that's going to have potential dominoes to the financial side, that we would hope to help with,
which is the fourth pillar, finances. And I think what was in this report really just reiterates a lot of the things that we already know to be true. But it is very common for somebody to come to us as they start to think about retirement, and they ask that question: do I have enough? Am I going to have enough, that I'm not running out of money at the back end? And even that enough is so very relative, right? Because it's not just this financial stuff. It is starting to pull in. We have conversations on health and long-term care and what that's going to cost and all those things, but it is trying to determine for them, well, what is enough for you, and how do you define that when it comes to friends and family and purpose and hobbies and things of that nature.
Yeah, the note that I made was 3/4 of those people planning to retire haven't even considered or calculated how much they think they'll need in retirement, which is crazy. But it makes complete sense.
It's so natural.
Even if, so we certainly see this, right? Even if people come to us and have a general idea of what they think they're going to need, there are many different variables that are just not part of like the general thought of, well, hey, I'm going to retire and here's what I think I need because this is what I'm spending now. Like you said, it's factoring in healthcare costs and Medicare and long-term care in the future and whatever else. So yeah, even the fact that majority of people haven't even really considered, what do I actually need to retire, is quite astounding.
Well, I guess my response to that is that's okay, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Let's
That's why we have jobs.
yeah, to the people listening that are going, hey, this all sounds overwhelming, or there's just so many things to think about. We hear sometimes as well, I don't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
That's okay. I just think this 4-pillar idea really resonated with you and I, because they are the things that we talk about. And sometimes people may have that misconception that I'm not going to go to a financial planner because I don't know the financial questions to ask.
Yeah.
Look, it's very true that when someone comes in and they want to start talking about retirement, finances are the last thing that we are going to start the conversation with. Because it is these other things of family and purpose and perspective with health that really are going to drive our process. So point is, just start, just get the conversation started.
There's a saying that is, just generally, right? What's gotten me here isn't necessarily what's going to get me there, right? Whatever that there is. And one of those shifts for people, I think, is just leading up to retirement. We have acknowledged with almost everybody we've talked to, right? Saving is one of the hardest parts of getting to retirement, right? Having those habits, setting aside money, that is difficult. But now flipping that, once you retire and that those paychecks stop coming in and that saving is either gone, like you stop the saving process, and now that shift to, well, now I have to conserve and manage this and manage withdrawals moving forward. The majority of people, again, surveyed here, said that is even more confusing and challenging, because it's a new environment once again.
Well, and it's shifting. I think that was kind of the point of this whole report. It's that some of these things, how people are viewing retirement, what's most important to them, it's why we need to continue to evolve in the way that we go about our process. But the point is, understanding how people are thinking about it is only going to help us serve people better. And more, serving them is not just going to be the pie chart. It is having those meaningful conversations. We call that the human side of advising, that's really going to help them with the important stuff. And this report really showed what that was. And how much money they have is very, very low on the list, because it's relative to everything else that really does matter.
Yep. Yeah. And so our hope for us and our clients moving forward is to truly start to align these 4 pillars so that they truly are helping each other, right? Your finances are leading to your health, which is leading to your purpose, and that comes from family. So, or whatever that may be. But essentially, let's start to put these puzzle pieces together in a way that fits and gives people greater sense of purpose and accomplishment and just confidence that this transition into and through retirement is not necessarily a scary one.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. Thank you for putting it that way.
Great.
All right. Enjoy those turkey sandwiches. Hope you have a wonderful holiday, and I'll catch you on the other side of it.
Sounds great. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks.
Hey everyone, Adam and I really appreciate you tuning in. Please note that the opinions we voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be most appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, your accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to making any decisions or investments. Thanks for listening.